If you've ever driven past the town of DeWitt, just north of Lansing, where the Looking Glass River flows under US 27, you've seen a sign that says, "Turtles, pan ready." It's been covered up lately because the fellow who lives there, Greg Schneider, hasn't trapped snapping turtles in the past couple of years. He's been busy touring the Midwest with the Kikkers, a popular country band hopefully climbing its way to fame and fortune. When he's not playing music, though, Greg spends his days hunting, fishing, and trapping, pursuits his dad taught him since Greg was 2 years old. These fellows know Michigan's rivers and streams, and they invited me for a day of smallmouth bass fishing on one of southern Michigan's best-known rivers. So come on along with Greg and Frank Schneider. We'll catch a ton of bass. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors. The heat has been extraordinary, nothing like this in 100 years. But low water and hot weather doesn't always mean the fishing is bad. A week and a half ago, we floated an isolated stretch of a well-known southern Michigan river with country musician Greg Schneider and his dad, a couple of fellows who grew up on Michigan rivers. Before we left, we knew the river was going to be low and the temperature was headed for the 90s. I asked Greg if this wouldn't ruin our chances for a good day of fishing.
I don't think so. Your fish do group more, and they get in the pockets. You can read your pockets a lot better when the water's down. You get the stable weather like we've had. The fish are aggressive. They were aggressive today, and that's what you need to catch the fish that we caught. Yeah.
We did find though that they like the shadows.
Shadows. How many did we catch today?
75, 80 fish. We caught a lot of fish.
Yeah, they was grouped in the shadow pockets, and if you get a good pocket
water.
on the south bank where it would stay shaded all day, the temperature of the water will be 5 to 10 degrees cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Just same without getting the shade tree, it's cooler, and the fish getting the shade is cooler, and they group right in there.
A lot of these fish we caught were impersonators. They were impersonating trophy fish.
That's a smallmouth bass, though. Smallmouth bass they're thunder.
Yeah.
They are. You hook them, and a pound fish will feel like a 4-pound fish until you see them. That's just the excitement of catching smallmouth.
And in the river here, you've got a good current too, and they use that to their advantage. They just can go sideways and just use the current, and really, it's a good fight. You have a lot of fun. Even a 9-inch bass will really pull. I mean, you can have a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, those little ones. Some of them were. I don't know if it was disappointingly small because they put up such a good battle. So
that's all you go for is the fun of the fight of the fish, and a 9-inch fish will fight, or a 9-inch smallmouth will fight as much as a 10-12-inch largemouth or more. I mean, they put up a better scrap. They're solid.
Scoot out of there. Well, I'm going to cast back again. That's 2 in a row. 2 casts in a row. Greg has one.
There's a lot of bass in the river.
You fished all around the country. You fished for years and years and years and years. And all you do is have a tackle box full of plastic.
Well, it's easier than going and buying worms, easier than minnows, and you catch more fish.
Well, whether lures catch more fish than live bait will long be argued, but in this heat, the trouble with bait is keeping it alive.
These little ones stay greener. The bigger ones get a little darker colored. Sure is fun catching these, ain't it?
Here we go. I got another
one more, all right.
Okay, I can't believe this whole shadow. See, that there will stay shaded all day.
Oh, this is a good one. Or else I'd hook him funny. I think I may have hooked him funny. Well, I don't know what. Yeah. Now that's the third one I pulled out of that same hole. Well, the reason this spot was so productive was it was a small patch of deeper water next to the bank, shaded by the trees. It was cooler. The bass were clustered there. We took a half-dozen scrappy smallmouths out of that same hole before we got back in the flat-bottom John boats and drifted downstream. You pull these boats. I mean, these are not expensive boats. These are not elaborate. You don't even have a motor on them, no depth finder. Instead of a motor, you have this pole.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you pull? Nobody else I've seen pulls a river.
It's quieter. You got with the hook on the end. You got more to your advantage. If you got to reach, say somebody gets their line up in a tree or whatever, you can reach and you can get it out. Or the hook. If you see a turtle, you can hook a turtle, throw him in the boat. It's just the pole is a lot quieter. You don't have the noise.
Yeah, when you're going into a rock or something, if you're paddling, there's no way to stop the boat and back it up. You know, it's hard to do this, but with a pole, you can just stop the boat and just slide right around the rock, and you can maneuver a lot better. It's a lot more maneuverable. I mean, you can maneuver a boat real easy with a pole.
Yeah, but you ride it backwards. You're sitting in the front to pull it.
Well, that's because the front of the boat is narrower and it's easier to pull on each side. It gives you a tapered side to run your pole down so you can go straight. If you want to go straight, you can just go straight. And you're not, and it lifts the front of the boat, or the back of the boat, but that's what you call the front of the boat when you're pulling the boat. But it lifts it up out of the water, so if there's just one person in the boat, you're only pushing just part of the boat, and you can go a lot faster and more maneuverable.
The wind won't bother you as much either. That's a lot of things. If you're pulling into a wind, if you're like we're doing it, you're more stable in the front. Like with the tapered ends like this, the wind catches it and it's lighter. The wind will catch it and it'll throw you all over the place all the time. That's just the way we found that it's the best.
When you're river fishing, is it worthwhile to get up at the crack of dawn and be on the river at 6?
It sure is. Very well worth it.
Well, now, we didn't catch anything until 8.
But the thing is,
We
you
was
never
fishing
know.
holes that people already had been through, and it was you fish close to bridges. Close to a bridge, you don't catch the fish. When you move away, we got away from the bridge about a half a mile or 3/4 of a mile, then we started catching fish, just about as every place you throw a lure. But right close to a bridge, you know, you got everybody fishing, and the fish are not right there. They're down through the middle of the stretch.
Well, no, we caught some fish right by this bridge.
There's not too many people around this one, I don't think.
I don't think there's been anybody here
The
today.
road don't go across. It's dead end bridge, so.
So that's a trick. You got to find a river that's sort of an isolated stretch.
Right.
And probably, what's your experience tell you, that most any Michigan river that looks like this is going to hold fish of some type?
Oh yeah, sure.
This river here is noted for the best smallmouth bass river in Michigan. It's been that way for years. It's the best smallmouth bass river in Michigan.
Which river is this?
You tell us.
That's a little deal we made before we started.
Yes, I promise not to reveal the exact stretch of this prominent southern Michigan river, and I won't. But sometime, if you spot someone poling over the shallows who looks like me, it could very well be. I had no idea river fishing for smallmouth bass in the heat of the summer could be so much fun, but thanks to Frank and Greg Kashnider, I'm going to join the River Rats, a fraternity of easygoing, fun-loving fishermen in Michigan outdoors. I don't normally do the guide report in my t-shirt, but it isn't normally 100 degrees either. Oh, this is terrible. And it's having an effect on the fishing, except the trout streams in the northern part of the state, many of them are up to their normal levels because they're spring fed. According to Rusty Gates at the Al Saba Lodge, they're getting slate-winged olives coming off in the morning, caddis, and then moths at night. So moth imitations are doing real well on the trout, getting some hex hatches, some of the big Michigan mayflies around Charlevoix. Herring have started, by the way, up in the Muskogee Bay area. They do have bugs galore throughout the Upper Peninsula, along with some mayfly hatches. When we look at the Great Lakes report, in the Upper Peninsula, about the only thing that's really going hot is lake trout limits off at Keweenaw, 2 to 7 pounds. They get a little bigger as we move downstate, 5 pounds off Charlevoix. Lake trout are running 8 to 10 pound limits off Oscoda, limits off Pentwater. When we get down to St. Joe, Benton Harbor, this is the only place in the state they're getting more than 1 or 2 king salmon per trip. They're getting 8 to 12, 100 feet of water, 60 feet down, and they're running good size, 10 to 18 pounds. Now, looking at the perch, they're getting about 50 perch per trip, 8 to 10 inches. As we move up the coast, they get up to 14 inches off South Haven. 50 perch, about 7 to 8 inches off of Pentwater. Around the state, there's no real hot spots with perch, but there are a couple. Well, we do have. If you call big perch hot spots, 1 to 1.5 pounders up in the Upper Peninsula, Lake Gogebic, only about 6 to 10. Walleye are running 15 to 20 inches throughout the state, and a lot of places they're catching a couple of them in the old traditional haunts. 18 to 20 inches off of Charity Islands. Limits of walleye down off Lake Erie, Trenton, but they're running about 15 inches. We got those big 1 to 1.5 pound jumbo perch off Port Sanilac, 20 to 30 of them, and also around the tip of the thumb. So there is fishing to be had if you can stay cool. Get out there, the fish are plenty cool, and you can catch them this weekend. It's hard to imagine 30 degrees and deer season, but it's only a few months away. Bill McConnell from Brighton made the trophy book last fall with this 11-point Eaton County buck, dressed out at 200 pounds. You haven't seen one of these in a while. That's a raincoat that Jim Talbert from Bay City is wearing. On a rainy day last November, he caught this 18-inch, 1-pound, 6-ounce Menominee whitefish from the Ausable River. Sandy Mullen from Stanton caught this 21-inch, 7-pound largemouth bass from Lake of the Pines in Clare County. The bait, a nightcrawler. A 9.5-pound walleye that hit a jig and minnow in the hot pond at Essexville. Mike Mankowski from Clio landed it. And here is one heck of a perch, 1 3/4 pounds, 15 inches long. Alfred Storch from Saginaw caught it from Sturgeon Bay up in Emmett County, fishing a minnow. Now, Rick Sweet is a big guy with big hands, and that bluegill doesn't look a foot long like it is, but it weighed 1.5 pounds. He caught it fishing a worm on a jig in Grand Traverse County, Silver Lake, one of the biggest bluegill taken in 1987, enough to give Rick Sweet the title as our Michigan Outdoors Trophy Angler of the Week.
A salmon posse is being talked about for Lake Michigan. This is the second year in a row the salmon haven't showed up, and biologists are thinking about putting together a fleet of boats to try and locate, with sonars, the missing salmon schools. There's a new state record hybrid sunfish taken by Daniel Manville of Traverse City. It weighed 1 pound 7 ounces. The previous record was 1 pound 2 ounces. Teresa Brown of Hazlitt set 2 shooting records on her way to winning the women's championship of the National Muzzleloading Competition held in Friendship, Indiana. Prospects for a special goose season look good. The 10-day season should begin September 1st. Some areas of the state will be closed, and a 3-bird-a-day limit is likely. Double bonus antlerless permits are on tap for at least 6 areas in southern Michigan. The herd across the region has mushroomed, and the DNR hopes hunters will take over 125,000 deer there this year. One of the first victims of this drought, according to DNR wildlife biologists, might be the woodcock. Worms make up the big share of the woodcock's diet, and in this extreme heat and drought, earthworms estivate, which means they dig deep into the ground and sort of hibernate, making them all but impossible to find for woodcock. Who could have imagined that less than 2 years ago, with the floods and record lake levels, that the entire state would now be a tinderbox that crunches under your feet? Now, the scariest part of this drought is that one well-placed match or fire accident, and the possibility is truly there to have a fire only the Great Lakes can stop. Now, the human suffering from the drought, that'll be calculated mostly in the number of farmers who will lose their farms. And funny that suburbanites worry about their lawns now, but next year it's going to be the price of bread and beef. The important thing to remember in all of this is that Mother Nature is still in control, just like she's always been. She's just more noticeable this year. And this is not an odd year in her book, it's an occurrence. Only humans calculate averages, and only humans keep records on rainfall and temperature highs and lows. And until this drought subsides, we'll just have to play the hand we're dealt. Now, the most important thing being to be extremely careful with fire. Let's not remember 1988 is the year that either one of our Pleasant Peninsulas went up in smoke.
In the eternal quest for more predictable fishing, Wendy Howard from Davisburg writes, "Is it true when the barometer rises that fishing is better?" Well, Wendy, cold fronts often occur on a rising barometer, and most anglers feel that cold fronts shut the fishing down for a day or so. But scientific correlations between weather and fishing are few and far between. Everybody has their own opinions, but basically, fishing success seems to be stable when the weather is stable. When weather changes, now this means for the better or for the worse, fish feeding patterns seem to be disrupted. Sometimes fish go on a feed, other times they shut right off. So would I fish on a rising barometer? Sure, I'd fish any chance I could, and I hope you do the same. Talk about extreme weather conditions. With the record-setting miserable heat we've had, I almost long for the days we spent ice fishing in the winter, except for one day. This was off Bell River, Ontario in Lake St Clair, February 1985. The temperatures midday, get this, they got all the way up to 0. The wind howled. Next to a few tip-up towns, this was the coldest day we've ever taped a story on Michigan Outdoors.
Spectacular battle. Everybody will crowd around the hole and give a big cheer when the first walleye comes up.
I hope so.
Well, that's what we were looking for, but you know, on a day like this, well, thick or thin, though, when we tell you we'll go walleye fishing on Michigan Outdoors, we'll go walleye fishing. Now, it doesn't happen very often that fishing is good right after a storm or during extremely cold weather like this, but now and then we do have some good luck. The problem with the weather might not be as much with the fish as with the fishermen. There aren't as many on the ice. Those that are move quite slowly. They don't bore as many holes. They don't stay as long. They don't fish as hard. You know, we couldn't even turn towards shore too much because that's where those 0-degree winds were coming from. We couldn't take off our mittens for very long because our fingers would freeze up. And once you get cold, it takes some doing to warm up when you don't have a shanty or a heater. All this takes a toll. Now, what fun is doing this on a day like this under such extreme conditions? Well, we were dressed for it, and we were among friends, and we managed to have a lot of laughs about our predicament and our collective borderline judgment about going fishing on a morning like this. But for a reason that maybe only ice fishermen can understand, even though we didn't catch fish, the adventure itself was fun. And boy, was it a momentous occasion when Greg Golab brought in his first, turned out to be our only, fish.
Hey, roll that tape. We got a fish. What's the deal here?
It's not a very big one.
Hey, that
Perch.
You know, we were just in the midst here of having what we call an ice fishing huddle.
Yeah? Trying to stay warm, eh?
Yes, chatting over strategies.
Playing your strategies.
Yeah, chalk talk here. Well, now that's absolutely outstanding. I think this doesn't look like it'll be the only one because we have had some nibbles.
We've had a few.
Well, that was our first fish on our only fish. We probably would have had more if we paid as much attention to our fishing lines as we did to our fingers and toes, which were slowly losing life. I think you can understand that. But a brief meeting by some visiting ice fishermen warmed us up, though.
A visitor from the north.
How you doing, kid?
Pretty good. How are you?
Oh, not bad.
What's your name?
Bud Dean.
You been fishing out here this morning yet?
Yeah, we tried it out further. Nothing.
Nothing?
No. Last couple of days been pretty rough.
Because of the cold weather or what?
I don't know what it is. I think there's too much feed in the lake, maybe.
What are you using? Using minnows or
Yeah, minnows and Swedes.
jigging them just like we're doing?
Jigging, yeah.
Huh. So you're a little dissatisfied cruising around asking people if you run into
Well,
anybody?
not only that. No, we look all over. We fish all over the place, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm from down in Puce, and we go all the way to Stony Point, everything. We got an 8.5 pounder 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no kidding.
Or, yeah, about a week and a half ago.
Well, we got some little hits here every now and then. Some of the boys are getting hits. You think they're perch or?
No, they're probably a pickerel, but pickerel are a little bit tricky to... You gotta really suck them in, eh? They'll just suck on it. You bring it up a couple inches and until you feel the weight and haul them in because they don't really bite. You just hold the minnows in their mouth.
So you shouldn't horse them in?
No, just bring them up easy, and when you feel the rate, reef them up.
We'll do it.
Okay.
As per your instructions. Hey, good luck to you.
Thank you. You too.
Nice talking with you out here. It's nice having some visitors.
Yeah. Well, we watch you every Thursday.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, great.
So,
Got to give you one of our outdoor digests, but I don't have one in my day pack.
oh, well, that's all right.
You got a business card on you?
No.
Right into us.
Well, okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, we'll see you later.
Okay.
How are rabbits and hares different at birth? Rabbits are altricial, born blind, hairless, and helpless. Hares are precocial, with open eyes, fur, and able to move about immediately. Lois Bond from Seaboing was a big winner with Goose Breast Surprise in our wild game cooking contest. This was the top small game entry. It's not surprising that this goose that we're eating right here did not come from Bob Garner and I so far this season.
Well, we've shot a few ducks, but it has been a tough season.
Few and far between. This came from Ken Darwin.
Michigan fisherman, and he donated it very freely.
Yeah, he did. He edits Michigan Fisherman magazine, but he's been out duck hunting and
Doing real good
goose
this
hunting,
year.
doing very well. And there's the goose, which you can see. A goose is largely dark meat from stem
Very
to
dark.
stern.
And we got big pieces off this. It's not as big as a turkey, but much bigger than a chicken or a pheasant.
And Lois says you should cut this off into small pieces or strips.
Pieces or strips, right. Now, I opted for pieces. She says you can put it on a bun, and so we're just going to put it on noodles here. But you're going to marinate this. You're going to tenderize it with some Adolphs. Now, that's unseasoned tenderizer. They're just straight tenderizer. A little bit of Italian dressing. Now, that acts as a tenderizer in itself.
I can taste that a little bit.
You can. It's just a bit different.
This is not a spicy recipe, but a recipe that has spices in it. There's a little garlic powder
and onion powder, not salt. And we got seasoning salt. Going to find a little bit of seasoning salt here. That's the only salt there is. And some good ground fresh pepper. Good black pepper there. And I'm going to stir this up. Now, we're going to coat the pieces in that and then fry them.
That breading right there, I can taste it on this goose right here. It tastes like that shore lunch stuff you buy.
Exactly. It's probably just about what it is.
Oh, man.
Be good on anything. Good on steak, just about anything. Going to fry these very quickly. You just want to coat the outside of them and then fry them very quickly.
Ooh, look, you can see they're bubbly hot right there. See the oil?
They don't take long at all. You're just going to
You used a wok.
sear the outside. That's right. You can use a wok or you can use a frying pan. A non-stick surface is best. That's right. Now I got onion, a whole onion. Just kind of fry these until it's transparent. You don't want to brown them really.
They're really tasty, too.
The onions?
Yes. Going to add a can of mushrooms and just mix those in with the onions.
Or fresh you could use. It would take longer to cook, I think,
Yep,
the
it
fresh
most certainly
ones.
would. You want to cook those first before you did your onions. Then you're going to add this back in, just kind of keep it warm. You want to be careful stirring this because the breading will come off.
And here it is, Goose Breast Surprise, which Lois says you can put on a sandwich.
On a sandwich bun, right? Or on rice or noodles.
She also says that you can cook this with venison, with, I bet it would be good even with woodcock breasts, like we had last week.
Those little pieces, you bet.
Ducks. Bob is getting every last mushroom and every last noodle.
Venison, moose, elk, beef, chicken,
It could be with beef. You can see right here,
popple trees.
you can see cutting into the goose breast. Now, this is not cooked all the way through like many people cook wild game. You can see a little bit of pink in there that would look like a piece of prime rib or roast beef. That's how you want to cook wild game. And
yeah, you wouldn't want it completely done.
Oh, and I tell you, this is just superb.
I don't know, I've got a little bit left.
Yeah, one
Very
onion,
little bit.
1 onion and 2 pieces of noodles. That's a testimonial for it, folks. If you didn't get all the ingredients written down from tonight's recipe, don't despair. We have it in the new July-August issue of the Outdoor Digest magazine. If you're not a subscriber, we'll send you this current issue free of charge. It also contains hunting and fishing articles, including one by Bob Knopf on how and where to locate bass in the summer, a trophy book entry form for the 1988 Stroh's Hunting and Fishing Awards, a page on each week's show, including the recipes.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, and all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan.
Next week on Michigan Outdoors, we're going to study an aspect of fishing that's so obvious and so easy and can increase the number of fish you successfully land by up to 50%. The secret? Sharpening hooks. Learn why and how right here next week.
Sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in the state of Michigan.